The ongoing rivalry between Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy on the PGA side and Greg Norman on LIV Golf side seems to be coming to a head, as both sides will be locking horns much more aggressively given the recent turn of events. Turns out Norman is not the actual commissioner of the Saudi-backed golfing event. Who is it, and what does this mean for the PGA versus LIV fiasco? Stick around to find out. Starting with, Greg Norman is not running day-to-day operations at LIV Golf. Internal affairs at both the PGA Tour and LIV Golf came under a microscope recently as both golfing events targeted the other in their antitrust lawsuits. According to a recent motion filed by the PGA Tour in early December of this year, Greg Norman, a former Australian golfing legend in his own right and the current commissioner of the rival event, is not the event's actual commissioner. The motion stated that they had reason to believe Norman's role was in name only, and the actual commissioner was the head of the Saudi and public investment fund, Yasir Al Rumayyan. They claimed that Al Rumayyan was responsible for making key strategic decisions, approving the budget, and managing LIV's golf day-to-day operations. Norman, as it turns out, is only responsible for recruiting golfers into the rival league, but Al Rumayyan has the final say in whether they'll be inducted into the Saudi-backed league or not. The motion was filed as a reply at the U.S. District Court to support its existing motion to compel Al Rumayyan to provide documents and depositions willingly and timely amidst ongoing legal proceedings. As of date, the Saudi and Public Investment Fund has poured well over $2 billion into LIV Golf. If the name Al Rumayyan sounds familiar, that's probably because the 52-year-old is also the owner of the Premier League football club Newcastle United. Coming up, Wizards behind the curtain, according to the PGA. The PGA Tour had been less than welcoming when the Premier Golf League was announced back in 2019. Tour Commissioner Jay Moynihan publicly stated that any players who moved on to the rival golfing event would be barred from all future PGA events. Nevertheless, the two came to an agreement sometime in 2021 and even decided on splitting prize money and holding joint events. What changed? Reportedly, the Premier Golf League went to the Saudi Investment Fund in a bid to find capital to finance their golfing event. However, since the Public Investment Fund had already founded Golf Saudi, they decided it would be best to assimilate the Premier League into the budding Golf Saudi event. And that's how LIV Golf came into being towards the latter half of 2021, with Greg Norman being announced as its commissioner. Understandably, this sourced quite a few over at the PGA Tour, who then denounced the PIF-backed event and barred de facto players from competing at future tour events, most notably Phil Mickelson. The two haven't seen eye to eye since and have engaged in legal proceedings against one another. Per the PGA Tour's recent filing, they believe that Al Rumayyan and not Norman is the key culprit, stating that he's the wizard behind the curtain, who's been making every decision since 2021. The PGA Tour actually submitted 44 filings to the U.S. District Court, but several of them were redacted per LIV Golf's request. We've had to make do with the information that was made public, but thankfully, it was enough to keep our need for drama satiated. What's more, Norman's exit won't make much of a difference. Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods have had some opinions on Greg Norman's role at LIV Golf. Specifically, the two professional golfers have accused the former professional golfer of being less than forthcoming in negotiations, and thereby delaying any sort of agreement between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. McIlroy made his views known ahead of the DP World Championship, where he called the Australian a child and stated that he should exit stage left. He claimed that Norman should retire, knowing that he managed to kick things off for LIV Golf, recruit many top players, and give the Saudi Public Investment Fund a return on their money. He claimed that it was time Norman handed over the role of commissioner to an actual adult so that proceedings could go forth smoothly. Woods gave one of the most explosive interviews of his career at the Hero World Challenge, where he claimed that no one over at the tour owed Mickelson an apology. More on that later on, and that Norman had been harming the world of golf with his unnecessary antics and delaying tactics. Both professional golfers made it clear that they wanted Norman out. However, as it turns out, having Norman resign or fired from LIV Golf wouldn't make much of a difference anyway, since the PGA Tour now claims he was never the commissioner to begin with. Let's talk about how has Greg Norman responded to McIlroy and Woods' statements. Greg Norman claims he pays no heed to McIlroy and Woods. In a recent interview, the former golfer claimed that he had paid zero attention to whatever the two had to say about him, and stated that he was going to be a part of LIV Golf for a self-proclaimed long time. This is interesting, considering the fact that it was only a few weeks ago that reports began to surface suggesting Norman was being booted from LIV Golf. Yes, he's here to stay. But then the obvious question becomes, what's his role at LIV Golf? It's unclear as of now. Norman and Al Rumayyan are set to respond to comment. What we do know is that the Aussie thinks it's childish to engage in a public feud against Woods and McIlroy. He claimed that he had no idea what their motivations were for publicly calling him out, but rest assured he wasn't going anywhere. Woods claimed that any degree of cooperation between the two rival leagues could only be reached if Norman were to exit from LIV Golf. Norman, however, revealed to Today's Golfer that given LIV Golf's incredible inaugural year, and since 3 locations had been confirmed for the event's 2023 season, things were looking up, thereby indicating that the higher-ups were more than pleased with his work and had no plans on booting him anytime soon. Additionally, what do we know about Project Wedge? Per the PGA Tour's filings to the U.S. District Court, we now know that the tour believes LIV Golf is up to something far more sinister than what it claims. According to LIV, their role role is as straightforward as it can be, a competing golfing event. However, ever since the event was announced in 2021, the PGA Tour believes that the Saudi-backed event pours money to drive players away from it and also to create opportunities for itself unethically. Those are some pretty bold claims, but the PGA Tour claims they have solid evidence to back up their claims. In the few documents that were subpoenaed by the court from LIV Golf, the Tour claimed the event referred to itself as Project Wedge. They claimed this was done in a bid to keep their unethical practices under tight wraps. The Tour also claimed that LIV Golf had acquired the services of a global consulting, communications, and strategy firm Teneo sometime in 2022. The firm has ties with numerous former government figures, including House Speaker Paul Ryan, Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, and former IBM CEO Ginny Rometty. Per Exhibit 40, LIV Golf acquired Teneo services in January of 2021 and came into a payment plan of $225,000 in 12 monthly installments to be paid towards the firm's asking of $2.7 million. The Tour claimed that this was solid evidence that could suggest the Saudi-backed golfing event was creating opportunities and expansions for itself by pouring in money and making powerful contracts. Teneo, however, did not refer to LIV Golf as Project Wedge in any of its documents. Now for, why does Phil Mickelson believe he deserves an apology? As promised, here's why Phil Mickelson believes he deserves an apology from the PGA Tour. He believes the Tour had engaged in alleged anti-competitive behavior against de facto members who switched over to LIV Golf. Unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know that Mickelson is one of LIV Golf's most high-profile players. The 52-year-old is the recipient of multiple awards and was the world's richest player last year. This year, however, Mickelson made it known that he had decided to explore other avenues and switch over to LIV Golf. His switch was highly controversial and made even more so because of his comments, for which he has since apologized. Now, Mickelson believes he too is entitled to an apology after alleging that the Tour tried their utmost hardest to bring him down. As you might remember, the professional golfer, along with 3 other athletes, was part of a highly contested court case against their former league after the PGA announced they'd be relinquishing his tour card, something Mickelson believed was unnecessary. The professional golfer and the 3 other plaintiffs in this case have since dismissed their application, but Woods believes this does not entitle him to an apology from the Tour. Finally, has the McIlroy versus Norman fiasco gone too far now? McIlroy called Norman a child, and the Aussie retaliated by claiming the professional golfer had been acting childish. Both of them have been at each other's throats recently, with McIlroy taking on a more active role on behalf of the PGA Tour, and Norman being their rival league's alleged commissioner. And while Norman has been the one to receive any sympathies or support from fans and publications, many believe that Rory's recent comments took their row too far. The Northern Irishman has been lauded by fans for his brute honesty, but many believe he's getting a bit out of hand with his explosive comments directed at the former professional golfer. Several fans took to Twitter to talk about McIlroy's recent comments calling out Norman, claiming it was time for him to quit, calling him a child, and alleging he had ruined the sanctity of golf as we know it. And they believe McIlroy has started getting too personal with his attacks on Norman. They believe his anger has been misdirected. It should be at LIV Golf as an institution, and not at Greg Norman as a person. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. Do you think McIlroy and Woods are fair in what they have to say about Norman? How do you feel about the recent revelations about LIV Golf? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. We'll see you at the next one. Bye!